Hello, today we are going to be covering the 4 most important lending documents needed by private lenders. My name is Edwin Epperson. I am with The Sophisticated Investor, and we are helping investors like yourself build, protect, and preserve your family's generational wealth through private lending. So today's topics of learning are the 4 critical documents. We're going to cover what those 4 critical documents are. We're going to cover how to vet those documents, and then, of course, yellow flags and best practices. So let's get started. The 4 documents are an acronym. No, it is not what you may think. The C.L.A.P, this is the C.L.A.P you don't want to get. This is the C.L.A.P that you do want to get. The C.L.A.P stands for the credit report, the loan application, the appraisal, and the preliminary title. Now, these 4 documents are typically collected by a broker. If you are a private lender that is really taking a passive role, the broker will be providing all this documentation. If you're a private lender and you're wanting a more active investment strategy, then you are going out and you're finding the borrowers yourself. Therefore, you are responsible to collect this documentation. Also, notice that most of these documents will be provided all at once by your broker, or even your borrower can provide this information for you. But there's one document that you will more than likely be waiting on, and that is the actual appraisal. So we're going to cover the timeline and why that could be the case. So first, let's get into the credit report. Let's go into the report versus the score. Now, most of you have seen some type of credit paperwork, and you see this. This is not new information. This is fairly understandable for most people. In this case, this is a tri-merge report. So you're seeing all 3 credit scores across all 3 credit bureaus. Sometimes your borrower may send you a credit report or a credit score from Experian or TransUnion or Equifax independently. Just know that as a score, this really doesn't tell you what the history is on the borrower. It gives you an aggregate number, but that's not what you as a private lender should be interested in. Primarily because this is a situation that could be the borrower had an 850 3 months ago, but for the past 3 months, they've not made any payments, and now their score is this. On the onset, this looks like a pretty decent borrower, not in the low 5s at all. So they clearly have some good history. However, you don't know what the actual history is, the reporting history. So that's something that we're going to dive into, why you're going to want to know that. Now, when you get a report, you can get one from all 3 credit bureaus, and it's going to give you the recorded history of that borrower and all the creditors that are for that borrower. So just make sure that the information is being provided. You know if they're missing payments, that you see all the updated current history. So that is really important with the credit report. Some of the yellow flags are missed recent payments. If you see in one of the reports that there's a payment or a creditor that has some recent missed payments, this could indicate a change in their financial situation, a loss of their job, or an emergency that is diverting funds. So make sure you dive into any creditors that are missing payments from your borrower. Looking at the history, if you see a consistency in late payments, meaning that they have creditors that are just consistently, they're always 30 days behind or 60 days behind, there could be an underlying issue there as well. At a bare minimum, it lets you know as a lender that they will more than likely be late on your payments. And if that's a hassle that you simply don't want, then you have the option not to do the loan. If you move forward with the loan, make sure that there are penalties in place to really steer your borrower towards being on time and making their payment in full on time. Otherwise, these late fees can rack up. And of course, for you as a private lender, that could be a good thing as long as it doesn't go into default, because now you have the ability to collect additional income. Another yellow flag could be that your borrower has too many different contact information. So on all 3 reports, you're going to have a section on the report that goes over their address, all known addresses for the borrower, all known emails, and all known phone numbers. If there is a lot of information, it could be indicative that your borrower moves around a lot. If your borrower is prior military or current military and they're involved in real estate investing, then that could be an issue on their report, that they have a lot of addresses that they've moved around to. So just be sure that you check out with the borrower, make sure that the information on their loan application, their driver's license, and all the documentation that you require from your borrower reflects the most recent address, phone number, and email address for that borrower. Now, going on, let's dive into the loan application. So there are two ways that you can get a loan information based on the loan application. The standard is a 1003, and this is a loan application approved by federal and state governments. You can have a custom loan application as long as you are not lending to owner-occupied primary residences or secondary residences. If you're focusing on a certain type of loan program, i.e. fix and flip or short-term rentals, primarily the borrower is an entity and they're borrowing your capital secured to real estate for business purposes. Fix and flip is a business purpose, long-term rentals, short-term rentals, whatever that is. As long as the borrower is an entity, you are staying outside of owner-occupied government oversight and regulations and licensure requirements. So again, just be aware that if you're going to lend or invest in notes that are secured to owner-occupied, there is a whole different set of regulations and laws that you have to follow. If you are lending to borrowers that are entities, meaning a company, and it's for business purposes, you can use whatever type of loan application your heart's desire. One of the other aspects that come with the additional documents are, of course, a driver's license, as well as a purchase and sale agreement if it is a purchase. If it's not a purchase and it's a refinance, then you'll want to make sure that you get the current mortgage. If there is a mortgage on the property, you'll want to get that current mortgage documentation or the deed to the property if it's free and clear. Just be sure that purchase and sale agreement actually is fully executed by the borrower and your seller. Inside that purchase and sale agreement, there should be an agreed purchase price. It should name the title and escrow company where closing will be held, which you will then use to reach out to the title company and collect the fourth document in our list, as well as it should have the set closing date and any addendums to the purchase and sale agreement. Vetting the borrower is multi-tiered. Again, everything is seen through the lens of loaning to entities. So one of the very first things you're going to want to do is go to your state corporations division website and look up the borrowing entity. Make sure that they're active, they're in good standing with the state. Also be aware that if your borrower has a multiple asset protection structure, that could present additional vetting that needs to be done. So an example of this would be there's a borrower that's using an LLC. They're going to buy a property in Orlando, Florida. That LLC is controlled or owned by a corporation based out of Nevada. And then that corporation is actually controlled by a trust based in Wyoming. That may seem like overkill, but for the borrowers that are very well versed in asset protection, this is not a foreign concept. This is actually something that you will come across as a private lender. All that means for you is that your real estate attorney properly vets each one of those entities, making sure that the borrower has the right to encumber the entity. If there's additional costs, don't worry about it. It simply gets passed on to the borrower. Know what each type of entity documentation looks like. Be sure to know what a standard operating agreement for an LLC, what articles of organization looks like. Make sure that you have that information and that it's properly executed by all members and managers of the entity. If it's a corporation, make sure that you know what articles of incorporation look like, as well as bylaws, which are the governing documentation for that corporation, as well as your first meeting of the minutes. You need to have that first meeting of the minutes for the corporation. Just be aware that all those information your attorney will vet, but it's good for you as a private lender to know what you're looking at so that you can do that preliminary vetting right off the bat. What you're seeing here is called criminal background records. You can order a criminal background search on your borrower. Of course, the borrower pays for it, but this gives you any comfort and knowledge that the borrower has not been involved in financial fraud or any type of financial litigation in the past, and there's no record of court issues concerning financial issues. So that's definitely something you want to check. Now, here's some additional yellow flags for your borrower. If the physical address on your driver's license and loan application should match. If it is a PMB, or otherwise known as a personal mailbox, it is highly recommended that you reject that application and make sure that they put their personal residence somewhere. I understand that if the borrower is an entity, then of course they're entity, but there is a section in the loan application that lists the entity address. You need to have the borrower's physical address on that loan application. Why? Because that physical address is really important, especially if you draft your loan documents. Your attorney is going to use that loan application to draft your loan documents. The attorney needs to make sure that the borrower's physical address is somewhere in your loan package, because if that loan goes into default, by law, the attorney is going to have to send out a notice of default, and it has to be hand delivered by a server at that address. So a PMB or a PO box is not a place where that can happen, and you're going to have to hire a skip trace professional and then spend additional time and money trying to find the borrower. Good best practice, always have the borrower's physical address, loan application, and all documentation. Now, that being said, if they do put a PMB, you can always request, I need actual proof of your physical address, and then do your due diligence on that to ensure that that's where they live. So going to the third document will be the appraisal. Now, in the appraisal, we're going to cover some red flags, key points, and of course, the yellow flags. This is what most appraisals you're going to receive. It'll be a photo of the front of the property, as well as where it's located, the street address, for who it's written up for. That should be you as a lender. And then, of course, your borrower should be the borrower that is requesting a loan application from you. We're going to dive into some of the pages within the appraisal report, because this is really important for you as a private lender. So let's go ahead and get started. In that first section, you're going to have the property address as well as the current owner of public record. Now, the current owner will normally be either a lender if there's a lien on the property, or if it's owned free and clear, it'll be the borrower themselves. Make sure that information matches all the information from the title company and on the borrower's loan application. Also, right here is going to be the lender client. Should be you or your company and the address of where somebody can get in touch with you as far as the appraisal is concerned. Now, I want to be very, very specific here. If your borrower provides you a private lender, I've got an appraisal that was done for a previous lender. That lender fell out. They're not going to do the loan. Will you use my appraisal that I've already paid for? As a lender, you need to say no. Now, there's two ways you can go about this. You can either have the borrower, you can reach out to the appraiser yourself and ask if the appraiser is willing to adjust who the lender is to reflect yourself or your company, or you simply order a new appraisal and the borrower has to pay for an additional appraisal. Why do I say that? Because the lender listed here is the only one that this appraisal protects in court. So here's the example. Let's say you do the loan based on this appraisal that was done for a previous lender that the borrower provided to you. The loan goes into default. You then have to take the property back. You get the property back. You do a new appraisal because you're taking the property back. And lo and behold, the property is not worth $245,000 like we see here, or the contract price, in the next page, you'll see what the actual price is. It's much less. Let's say it's $150,000 or $125,000. Well, in that case, you as the lender cannot go to court and sue the appraiser, nor can you take the borrower to court, because this appraisal was written for a different lender. As a private lender, always ensure the appraisal is made out to you or your company. And then the third section on here, you're going to want to make sure that the contract price is the same as in the purchase and sell agreement, as well as the date of the contract reflects as much. That third section is the property seller, the owner of public record. If it's marked no, that's no concern. All that tells you is there's more than likely a wholesaler involved. All you need to do as a private lender is reach out to the title company, find out who the wholesaler is and what the wholesaler's purchase price is. The reason I say that is because you as the lender, you can include the wholesaler's fee into your loan, or you can make the borrower pay for that wholesale fee yourself. It's really up to you how you want to approach that. Remember, you're the private lender, you make the rules in the law. Okay, on to the second page. The very first section is going to be some comparables that the appraiser used to justify their price. You can read over that and see, typically distance is going to be an issue, bedroom, bathroom count, square footage. All of those are going to come into factor of evaluating the as-is value. But one of the things I do want to cover is right here, this section on this page is for the valuation. So you as a private lender, you're going to determine when you're making a loan how you're evaluating your properties. You want to make sure that at a minimum it's as is value. If, however, you are making the loan based on the future repair, or what we call the after repair value, you either want the second box checked or the third box, which is that second line down. The reason I say that is because those two boxes are going to be subject based on the future repair. However, one of those is based on hypothetical and the other is based on actual plans to completion. Just be assure that you as a private lender, if you're going to make the loan based on the actual future repair value, you get either the second or the third box checked, and that's what the appraisal is going to be based on. An addendum that you will want as a private lender is called the Market Conditions Addendum. All this does is give you as a private lender an overview of what's happening in the market. A lot of borrowers will approach you and say, hey, I'm going to get in and out of there. I'll be done in 4 months. And, I'm going to have this property sold in 2 weeks. Well, utilizing this information, and this is an addendum, using this information, you as a private lender can actually know what's happening in the market. If the days on market are starting to increase, then the likelihood that it's going to be on the market for only a few days or a week or so is probably going to get reduced. The other section you're going to want to see right here is this bottom section. And if you look at that top line, there is the seller's concession, or approximately 3% of the sales price. This lets you know as a lender, when that borrower goes to sell the property, on average, in the location where that property is located at, the average seller concession is 3%. So if that borrower is really skirting the line of, man, they're barely going to make a profit, and that 3% could be a big difference for them, then you need to be aware of, as a private lender going into that loan, that this is something you make your borrower aware of. And it's for you to make a decision on whether you're going to be comfortable at the loan price or the loan amount that the borrower is requesting. One of the other things that you're going to want to look at is this. The time will be delayed. Make sure that you have enough time to order, the borrower pays for, the appraisal is completed, and then the full report is given back to you and you have enough time to review. What we like to say to our borrowers, from the time that they order, that I order the appraisal, until the time that we are ready to go to close, is typically between 10 and 14 business days. Why? Because most appraisals are going to take 3 to 4 days to get the appraisal ordered, to coordinate that with the borrower. They're going to go out there, they'll do the appraisal in 1 day, then they have to go back and write the report. Depending on how busy the appraisal is, the appraiser could take anywhere from 7 to 10 days to actually complete the report, maybe longer. I've seen it as long as 12 days. And then it's going to take you a few days to go through the report, especially if you've never done it before, and evaluate to make sure that that appraisal is meeting your satisfaction. Remember this, at the end of the day, no matter what, you are the lender. Therefore, you make the rules. It's not the borrower, it's not the borrower's agent, it's not the seller, and it's not the title company. You're going to have all of these players involved in this loan transaction that are going to be putting pressure on you as the private lender to get the job done, to make the loan. Remember, you're the one driving the train. You don't do a loan unless you're absolutely comfortable with all the data and all the information that's provided for you. So remember, that's the mindset that you as a private lender have to accept and really implement in your process. So let's dive into the prelim title report, or the prelim title commitment. We're going to go over some of the key points. We're going to go over how to vet the title companies and red flags or yellow flags. All prelim title reports are provided to you the minute you reach out to the title company. Again, that's why it's important that there's a title company listed on the purchase and sell agreement, or that title has already been ordered and escrow has been opened by the borrower if they're doing a refinance. If none of those are in place, you should have a title company that you fully trust that can handle closing. And if your borrower does not have a title company yet, they've not even opened up escrow or title anywhere, you simply send them to your title company and your title company is going to handle that. But for most transactions, the borrower already has a title company. So it's important for you, it is imperative for you as a private lender to know how to vet a title company, as well as what information you're looking for on the title reports and the cover letters, because all of these are going to be different depending on the title company. So what you can see right here, the red box behind that is the title company contact information, as well as your escrow and or title officer that is working with you on the file. Now, inside this information, there is the very top part, you're going to see your escrow number and the underwriter. So for private lenders, especially if you're brand new to the business, understand that the title company, in this case, Driggs Title, is not the one that's actually underwriting or is going to pay out in case of fraud or in case of a title issue. They are simply the provider. The underwriter is the actual company that will write a check to you as a private lender, or write a check to the borrower if there's an issue on title. So just be sure that you're looking at the escrow number as well as the underwriter. Now, there are national underwriters, and we're going to go over those later. If the underwriter is not a well-known national underwriter, then do your due diligence to make sure that that underwriter is able to issue title insurance to both you as the lender and the borrower. The beginning of the actual title report, there are several sections, so let's dive into this. The very first section is going to be, of course, your order number, as well as your escrow officer or loan officer. The loan number, there may or may not be a loan number associated with that yet. If there's not, don't worry about it. You simply reach out to the title company and let them know what your loan number is, and of course, who the mortgagee clause is going to be. The second section will be the to. This should be your borrower. Whoever that is, whether it's individual or as an entity, that should be the to, and it should be properly spelled out and labeled the same way as it is on the corporation division website. Your loan amount should be the loan amount that you are lending. It's not the purchase amount. It should be the loan amount that you're lending, as well as the property address. So this is the property address. You'll want to make sure that that information matches the loan application, as well as the purchase and sell agreement. Property address is different than the legal description. The legal description is the part that actually stands up in court. What you have here is simply the property address. Underneath that is going to be the property proposed insured, going to be your borrower. Underneath that is going to be your lender's policy, or what we call the mortgagee clause. So that should properly list out your entity or yourself, depending on whatever that looks like. It should be properly named and labeled so that you as a lender are properly protected. And then, of course, the effective date. You want this as close to the date that the purchase and sell agreement was executed, because from that point forward, the title company will cover any changes to liens or anything that's attached to the property. Now, the next thing is there's further on documents or further on pages. These pages are going to list any liens or anything that is attached to the property, or all information that the title company must do to clear title to give you that first position that you expect, or whatever position you're in. Just make sure that all that information is listed, and just know that as long as you have lender's title policy, you are covered. And that's why it's so important that you get lender's title policy on all loans that you originate. Now, here are some of the most common and most well-known national title companies. These are all the underwriters. Your title company may not be one of these companies. It could be, a local mom and pop. And then what they will do is they're using one of these national underwriters to actually underwrite that insurance policy. Make sure that the preliminary title report has one of these title companies there. And then you can, of course, reach out to that underwriter and check and confirm that the title company actually has the ability to provide that policy from them. The other thing that you can do is go to the state website where that title company is located, and you can actually do a licensee search. This is the state of Florida, and then you can check to see if the title company is there. Another document that you want to get from your title company is called their E&O insurance policy. This is errors and omission. You want to make sure that that title company has an errors and omission policy that covers your loan amount. Many title companies will have maybe a $2 million policy. Make sure that the title company's E&O insurance policy covers at a minimum your loan amount. One of the things that I'm very big about is teaching people how to become a private lender. There are two roles that people can play in the private lending space. One of those is an active lender, and the other is a passive lender. Private lending, most people get involved because of the passive income aspect, but there are two different roles that you can play. One of the ways that I teach my investors to become a passive private lender is because of the time freedom. They have the ability to pursue other aspects. This is truly the purest form of passive investing, seeking passive income. There's also no experience required. I teach my private lenders that no experience is required on their behalf. They don't have to have decades of experience fixing and flipping properties, managing rentals, or even have a license in the lending space. They can do this literally with no experience whatsoever. I teach my investors that it's true file cabinet money, how to structure their loans in such a way that it simply shows up every month. I teach my investors about true leverage. It's not just about capital. It's learning about how to leverage other people's time, knowledge, and experience. And lastly, I teach my private investors how to actually participate and diversify their portfolio across many different loans. My name is Edwin Epperson. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been the 4 most important lending documents that every private lender needs. If you have any questions at all, please reach out. You can find me on Facebook or LinkedIn. If there's a topic that you'd like me to cover, we can get that scheduled on the calendar. And even if you've got experience or you've got some very deep knowledge on different aspects of real estate investing, please reach out. We can do a co-hosted event on our monthly Learn Lendings. This has been Edwin Epperson. Thank you so much. God bless, and make it a great rest of your week.